Boom, I'm in the room. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Everyday Conversations regarding mental health. Now, you're here because there's nothing on the telly, and I've got the wrong glasses on. So I'm coming to you tonight live from the Old Hill Manor. Now, let me tell you, this is a first. This is a first. I have guests in the studio. Anyway, just a bit of housekeeping. The live stream awesome quiz that used to be every Tuesday is now every Wednesday. Now, the reason for that is that I've been talked into going and joining a choir or a singing group. So, not quite sure they know what they've let themselves in for, because you know I can't sing. I struggle at carrying a tune in a bucket. But that's why we changed the day, because we go out on a Tuesday evening to this quiz, and it's all part of the VOS, which is the Veterans Outreach Support, and it's supporting them. And anyway, more of that in the weeks to come. Now, this show's all about mental health, mental well-being, taking the stigma out of mental well-being, taking the stigma out of mental health, getting people to be able to talk about it, being able to discuss difficult subjects in an everyday conversation. Now, tonight, like I said, I've got guests in the studio, and we're talking about bereavement 1 year on. Now, you all remember last year my poor old mate Harry, he fell off the roof while he was cleaning his solar panels. Hottest day of the year. So it wasn't the fall that killed him. The fact that he bounced off the conservatory, bounced off his wife's car, put a dent in it. Had he survived that, he'd have been in serious trouble. But it's the stop at the bottom that got him. So, anyway, let's bring on my guests. So, without too much further ado, here they are.
Hello.
Catherine and Steph. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Now, I've got you in the wrong place.
You have. I'm where am I looking?
I'm trying to work out which camera it is now. I think it's that one, is it? Or is it this one? No, it's that one. So, let me see if I can get this right. Oh, yeah. There you go. We're in the right place. So, good evening, ladies. Welcome to Everyday Conversations regarding old mental health.
Thank you.
Now, this is a year on since we lost poor old Harry. Other people might know him as Stephen, but I only ever knew him as Harry. And we were best mates for a long time. I mean, I first met Harry back in 1976. I'd just come back from Munster, and Harry joined us in Gillingham, and we had an immediate connection with motorbikes, and we've been mates ever since. And we was in the same platoon at one stage with anti-tanks and all that. So, ladies, can I ask Steph, how's the last year been? Going through all the firsts that you go through.
It's difficult. So when it first happened, I guess you're in so much shock and it doesn't seem real, and you've had to tell the story so many times that it kind of feels just like a story that it actually hasn't happened. So I say, to start off with, I kind of dealt with it all right, but as it was approaching a year on, I was starting to really struggle. It was really difficult. Because you just think about all the things that he's missed out on and the things that we've done. I mean, I think it has helped us as a family because we still talk about him every day and the silly things that he used to do. So we're always talking about it. So it's not like anybody's putting their head in the sand and ignoring it, sort of thing. We do talk about him every day.
I think it's when things happen as well, like you did your Class 1 driving licence, didn't you? And obviously they're the things, that's what he did, they're what you want, to show this person and to share in your success, really, isn't it? And to say, look what I've done, but, that doesn't happen, does it? I mean, I know the rest of us all said it, but it's not quite the same, is it?
Yeah, I mean, that first year, I mean, you're kind of in overdrive. You're just in sort of autopilot mode. And when the different anniversaries come up, that's when it kind of hits a little bit. Certainly for me, when I went through it when I lost Dave and I lost Sandra, I mean, a year apart. God, that was tough. And I didn't deal with it. The way I dealt with it, when I lost Sandra, I think it was about 8 weeks later, 2 months later, I was in Afghanistan, and I left a lot of it up to Sarah to sort the house out, put it on the market, and it was from that point of view, I was concentrating on what I was doing at the time. Back in 2006, in Afghanistan, it was a dodgy old time to be there. They hadn't started with the IED so much, but it was more a shooting war, and I got into a few scraps with that. And my concentration was coming back out of Afghanistan alive. And when I came back after being out there for 6 months, that's when it kind of hit me, because the house had already sold. I popped back on R&R to sign some papers, and when I went back, the house completed and sold, and I moved into the science mess, and I found it really, really lonely.
I don't think it stops it, does it? It just delays it. At
For
some
me,
point,
yeah,
it's all going to happen.
Yeah, for me, it delayed the whole process. And I struggled a little bit at that time when I came back, because everything had stopped. I mean, we were really busy with the job. I mean, we were working sort of 12, 18 hours a day, every day, 7 days a week while we were out there. I was going out on patrols. I was recording stuff. I was constantly working all the time. So my grieving process didn't happen until sort of about 8 or 9 months later. And when I'd say I came back, the house had gone, moved into the mess, and I felt pretty lonely at that stage.
Well, it's like you've lived one life, gone away, come back to another altogether,
totally
isn't it?
different life. I mean, when I used to come back off a tour, I'd walk in the house, and once I'd checked what had been done, because she loved doing her decorating, and within 10 minutes it'd be like I hadn't been away. It wasn't like that last time. And I didn't have Dave either to talk to. And I mean, Harry was about, but wasn't quite as close to Harry at that time. It's only sort of slightly after. And this is going back to 2006, which is quite a while ago now.
Yeah.
I mean, all that time, I mean, we used to meet up, Harry, sort of once or twice a year, at different things we used to do. But so I find it pretty challenging.
Well, they didn't really give me time for my feet to hit the floor, because all of a sudden they had me in counselling, literally within about 6 weeks.
Yeah. Did you find that helped?
Yeah, I did, and I would recommend it to anybody, actually.
Yeah.
I think both the girls should have had it. I think they should both go to the doctors, and they should speak to him, because it's not just that we lost him, it was the circumstances that we lost him that was very traumatic. So, I think they probably would benefit from that. I was saying to someone the other day who's actually going through the same thing, although they lost their husband a while ago before Stephen. They said, I tried counselling, didn't like it. I went, well, maybe it was the wrong counsellor.
Yeah.
It's not the counselling, is it? It may just be that particular counsellor doesn't suit you.
Yeah, I think my counselling was spice rum.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the best thing to be able to do, but it's the way I coped at the time, and I found it a real challenge, and as time's gone on, as each year passes, it does get a little bit easier. You do think about them slightly less. It's not every day, but it's sort of several times a week that you think, well, if she was still here, we would be doing that. If they were still here, we'd be doing that.
Yeah, I think you don't just grieve that person, you grieve the life you had.
Yeah.
Like I was saying the other day, I miss my cruises. Would I want to do it on my own? No. I know people do, but I just don't want to do that.
It is totally different, isn't it? And I mean, I was probably about a year after. I was probably at my lowest point, and I was in the mess one night, and somebody said, "You all right?" I said, "Yeah, all right." As you do. He says, "Why don't you try internet dating?" What's that? So anyway, I'd gone to internet dating. I arranged half a dozen dates, and I got together with one particular lady. We were together for about 18 months, and that helped. And then I was off on another tour, my last tour of Afghan, and it didn't work out. So when I came back off of that tour, then I got together with Ro. And anybody that doesn't know, Ro is the current Lady Hill. She was Dave's wife, best mates to my wife Sandra. So we used to do an awful lot together. Dave was my best mate, and we used to do so much together as a sort of group. He died a year before Sandra, and then Sandra died a year and a day before him or after him, and so about 4 years after Sandra died, I got together with Ro, and it just happened, and now we've been married for 13 years.
Yes, the rest is history.
Time flies when you're enjoying yourself. So and we were able to sort of, I kept in touch with her all the time anyway, because I'm godfather to the two boys and stuff like that. So for me, that was keeping in touch, and we helped each other through it, really. And then we got together, and the rest, like I say, is history. But it's all those, the first year is probably you're on autopilot. The first year, the anniversaries of this, that, and birthdays and all the rest of it happen, and you're just sort of on autopilot to get through it. Coming round to the second year, you're now understanding that there's your loss, and you still miss bits and pieces, and the pain or just eases slightly. I found in the subsequent years, your feelings, you still love them as much and all the rest of it, but I find that you start missing them slightly less. Does that make sense?
Not at that stage yet, because it's literally just over the year, isn't it?
Just over the year now.
And the sort of our anniversary and then the anniversary of it happening were like 4 days apart.
Yeah.
So you're like focusing on the anniversary, and then you're at the cemetery doing flowers for that. Well, I went back twice because I just felt I needed to do it.
I think you still find yourself talking to them.
Well, actually, you were in the kitchen the other week, weren't you? And I knew it was Stephanie, but for some reason I called Stephen, and that's the only time I've done it since he's been gone, actually call him. And just for that instance, you just forget, don't you?
You do, and I found that quite often I'm thinking about, I still think about Harry quite a bit, because we used to talk, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a week.
If not a day.
Sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, depends on what we were doing, but we would, we'd just talk about all sorts of stuff, that blokes do. And so I miss Harry quite a lot. Particularly, he helps us out at sort of, must have been about 3 or 4 years ago now. It was about 2 years after I'd left the army, was when things sort of caught up with me. And that happens to a lot of people. When you leave the military, you deal with it while you're in it, and then when you come out of it, and it all stops, and that's when I found that my problems sort of kind of caught up with me, and I had a bit of a wobble. I saw the doctor, and he was going to prescribe me some pills. I said no, I didn't want to go down that route, but put us on to some counselling. And although the counsellors were really good, they didn't understand what I'd been through. But I used to talk to Harry a lot about it, and he got us through a lot of it, because we'd seen similar stuff in our early years, when that's the sort of stuff that was catching up with me. So I missed that side of it. And it's really difficult to find a best mate, a really good mate. They're few and far between, people that you can trust with your life and all the rest of it. So that's where I miss Harry, is being able to sort of just get on the blower and have a chat with him, and he quite often used to come down here delivering, and
Yeah. We were just talking about that today.
we'll meet up down at Wetherspoons and buy him a coffee.
He kept that a secret. He never said.
So that was that was
Yeah.
So that's some of the stuff that I miss, and it's hard to believe that it's just over a year ago now.
Yeah. I think we miss the crazy stuff, don't we? You know, all the daft things, you know, that he used to do. So it's a little bit of the fun, hasn't it, that's gone out of it.
Yeah.
And because you look back on the day and you think, oh, could things have been different? Could we have done anything different? But I had COVID, so I was inside and I wasn't mixing with anybody. But you do think to yourself, had I not have had COVID and I'd have been outside and he'd have said, I'm going on the roof, I would have said, no, you're not on the hottest day. So that's something else I blame COVID for. But, you know, well, whether he'd have listened to me or not is another matter, because, you know, he was determined one way or another those solar panels were going to get cleaned, but I might have been able to distract him.
Yeah.
But, you know, you don't know, do you?
You don't.
Yeah.
So all these camera angles have changed.
I don't know where I'm looking.
No, I'm looking everywhere.
So there we go. Look.
Hi, Keith.
So Keith said, hi, Catherine and Stephanie.
Hi, Keith.
So good evening, Keith. So we're just having a chat about our experiences of missing Harry and what has happened over the last year or just over a year. So, and I think it's quite important that we can carry on talking about him as his what's name, isn't it?
Yeah, and we talk to LJ a lot as well, don't we?
Yeah, he says things every now and then. Like we sat. Well, it's the first time we'd sat out in the garden a few months ago since it happened. We was all sort of sat there eating dinner, and then LJ just went, "Oh, I miss Grandad." And we was like, "Oh," so you know, yeah, he does think about him a lot.
Yeah, I guess because he was, you know, I mean, he knew him. He saw him most days and all the rest of it.
Yes, they spent a lot of time together. And even we used to take him on holiday every year just for a week. But you see, Stephen was always one that used to get into trouble with him. You know, he would be the one that would go off and do things. I can remember they had a little death's line for the kids, you know, where the caravan site where we were. And everybody else's child is swinging down nicely. No, LJ's got him up and he rammed him down the thing and it got to the end and he swung. I like, don't tell mum. There was a lot of don't tell mums.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was, well, funny enough, a little thing come up on Facebook the other day, didn't it? A memory. And Stephen was at the bottom of the garden doing, I don't know, something round by where his playhouse was. And LJ was hid the other side of the fence and Stephanie had bought him a big super soaker. And he was doing it, so it was going, and Stephen was like, oh, God, it's starting to rain. It wasn't. It was LJ the other side of the fence. So, yeah, you have to laugh at things.
Yeah.
But that's like when he dressed up as Father Christmas, wasn't it? And he come in and LJ went, hi, Grandad. So clearly that didn't work.
Yeah. But, I guess Callum was just
he
too
won't
young.
remember him, he was only
at all.
Yeah.
Unless he sees him on the videos and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, every time we go on holiday, I make a point of getting one of those little photo books done.
Yeah.
So LJ can keep it, because otherwise the pictures just stay on your camera, don't they? And Charlotte said he does get the holiday books out and looks at them all the time. So, you know, he will remember those things. So, I mean, that's nice.
And of course, there's all the podcasts that Harry was on with
Now,
me.
that's the lovely thing, because they're always there. So he can go back and listen to those, and he will have a sense as he gets older of who his granddad was. So that's lovely.
And some of his political views as
well. Oh, yeah, well, maybe he doesn't want those. But, you know, because the thing about those podcasts is, and I've listened to them more than once, and actually even early on I listened to them, because it's lovely to hear him like that. And the good thing about that is, forget it's a podcast, it's just two friends sitting and having a chat and a laugh together. Yeah. And that's lovely. And, you know, all the stories of what you used to get up to. I mean, I
think the problem when I was talking to Harry when we were doing that is keeping him on track.
Oh, yeah, never.
it strays off all the time.
Yeah.
It's all the time, and it changes the subject, and yeah.
Yeah, he always did that, didn't he? No matter what, wasn't just you. Always.
Yeah, he got similar views to me.
Yeah.
You don't get banned on Facebook.
Oh no.
No, not anymore.
Always in
I mean,
Facebook jail.
Yeah, I've been in Facebook jail a couple of times, but not as much as Harry. He
More
spent
often
most of
than
his
not.
time
Yeah.
in Facebook jail.
I used to say to him, "Oh, you not on your iPad?" You go, "No, I've been banned." I went, "Oh, not again." He used to say, "Can you tell everybody?"
Yeah. Harry's banned again.
Yeah.
So is there any advice that you would give to anybody that's sort of in a similar sort of situation?
I think it's different for everybody. For me, I had to make myself busy. So we absolutely gutted the living room. I had it plastered and electrics and furniture and because it kept me busy. It also looks different, so I don't feel I'm sitting in the room without him. I am,
Yeah.
but it's not the space where he always sat in the same chair. So for me, I had to change it because it was less painful to do that than it was to keep the place as a museum. Don't get me wrong, as you come in, his hat's still in the hall.
Yeah.
And his keys were still on the side. I've now moved them into the drawer. I mean, if you come in and look round, you probably wouldn't know that he's not there because he's got so many things about. But I did things like that. I mean, actually, when you moved out, the first thing I did was decorate Stephanie's room because, again, it didn't feel like it was her room without her. It just felt...
You didn't rent it out then?
Well, Charlotte had it in, but, you know, that's another story. But, yeah, that... And doing things, I'm not going to sit there and just stew on the fact he's not there and feel sorry for myself.
Yeah.
So I am going out and about a lot, and we're doing lots of different things and visiting lots of places and people. Like we've made a point, like we've come here to visit you and we went to visit my Uncle Don. So, you know, we say, we really must catch up. Well, actually, we're making sure we do catch up.
Yeah, I think that's really important as well. I mean, it's very easy to sort of insulate yourself and not to do anything. I think it's really important that you do get out and about. You do carry on life because life goes on regardless. And I think that's one of the things that people don't realise is that when life will go on without somebody, and you have to move on with the times, and
he would have been the first person to say that, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he would say, get on with your life. It's not a case of mourning them; it's celebrating their life, and I think that's something that's really important, and something that I found that helped me is being able to get on with my life, and celebrate that I had that time with them. I mean, I was married to Sarja for 23 years. We were together for 25. I knew Dave for the best part of 30 years, I suppose. I've known Harry for 45 years.
Just a bit longer than me. We met in 76.
Yeah.
At the end of 76.
Yeah, I met Harry when he first came to the battalion. I think it was about the same time that we actually moved back from Munster, which was I think in May, June time.
Yeah, that was earlier in the year, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we were the first ones to get motorbikes.
Yeah.
And we used to have
those stories are legendary.
Yeah, we used to have races and all sorts down to the calf and then up to Farthing Corner, and yeah, those were good days back then.
It's like that day when he was on the PTA and we had an open day in the barbecue and run out of something and just said, I'll nip to Summerfields to go and get it. And it felt like he'd literally been about 5 minutes. And that was including leaving the school, getting to Summerfield, getting what we needed and get back to the school. I was like, how fast were you going? And he just went, I went, don't tell Mum, hide for a bit.
So, I mean, that's the sort of thing that helps, is to be able to to talk about somebody that's lost. And every loss is different because everybody is an individual.
Well, and it's your relationship with that person. Like I lost my husband, Stephanie's lost her dad.
Yeah.
The grieving process is different.
Yeah.
I mean, I was with my dad at the end. I was holding his hand. So,
Yeah.
you know, I've been through that. I mean, unfortunately, we lost like my mum and dad within 10 months of each other.
Yeah.
And, you know, still now I go to pick up the phone, something comes on the telly, I go, must tell my dad. And you think,
Yeah. Can't.
But actually, my dad's phone number is still on my phone because I just can't make that step
Still on mine.
of taking it off.
Or deleting it.
Yeah, because I feel like I'm deleting that person.
Yeah.
That happened to me a week before Dad's funeral. I got sent into London, and one of the drops I was trying to get to, they'd shut off one of the roads. And I kept on going different roads, waiting for the sat-nav to reroute itself, and it just wouldn't get me to where I needed. So I was like, I know, Dad will know. And I phoned his number, and obviously it was cut off at that point.
Yeah.
And then I absolutely lost it. I ended up someone had to come out in a van and take over my route. And then I was off until after the funeral then. But
I think you sort of relive those moments over and over, don't you?
Yeah.
It's suddenly that thing that makes you realise that it's happened, because you'll go onto autopilot and you'll run through and you're not thinking of it, of every minute, of every second, of every day.
Yeah.
And then something will happen. For me, actually, it was when I got up first thing in the morning. And strangely, because Stephen was always up first and he always opened the curtains, I couldn't close the curtains because it meant I would have to open them in the morning, and then it would remind me all over again and I'd get upset about it. So when I went to counselling, one of the things she used to say a lot was, okay, what are you going to do? You tell me what you can do to make that thing easier for you. So what made it easier for me was if I don't shut the curtains, I don't have to open the curtains, and then I don't go through that in the morning. And you had your 40th birthday party, didn't you, in the November? And obviously we'd only just lost him in the July, so that's a big thing.
which in the grand scheme of things, when he accidentally invited me to the surprise 40th, I knew
You know
it
how
was
he
happening.
keeps a secret.
So I think if it had still been kept a surprise and then I'd have got there, I think I'd have found that really difficult. But the fact that I already knew what was happening, I was preparing myself that he wasn't going to be there.
So what I did to make it easier for me was, my friend was staying in a hotel. So although I only live a little way away from the venue, I said, you know what, I'm going to stay at the hotel, because then I wasn't leaving the house without him or going back without him on the evening of the party. And actually, for me, that made it easier. And there's been several things like that, and I think, okay, well, what would she say to me? How am I going to make it easier?
Yeah.
So, it's just different coping mechanisms that you go through.
You bought a curtain bot that opens.
Oh, do you know? I did. So I have a curtain bot. So now I don't have to open or close the curtains.
It does
Set
it for
curtains does it for me at set times. But ridiculous, isn't it? But it means I don't get upset by having to do it. As something as silly as opening curtains, but that was a real big deal for me, because it was a reminder every day that he wasn't there to do it. And as odd as that is, curtain bot is great.
I think I struggled in the beginning. I didn't want to go anywhere, and I was like really worried about Mum, and I didn't want her to be on her own.
Well, it was Anne's birthday, wasn't it, the day after? And you'd booked to go somewhere, hadn't you?
Yeah, see, I found that, although there was a few moments, moments that I thought about Dad, like when we got to Hagrid's Bikes and stuff, because we went not long after it first opened as a family. It was okay, because it was like, it hadn't really sunk in yet, but this year I really struggled to get motivated and sort stuff out for Adam's birthday. Normally I'd be really organised and I would know what we were doing, and I just really, 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 really struggled this year, which I felt bad because it's her birthday. But I just that's all I could just fixate on, is like it was coming up to the anniversary. And
well, when my mum used to say, when my dad went, I feel I've been cheated, because they were having a milestone anniversary. My dad was going to be turning 80. She was going to be turning 70. And then this year it would have been our 45th. Well, when we had our 40th, we went on away on a cruise. We didn't say anything to the girls, but we renewed our vows. We did it on our own. We didn't want like a big family. We just wanted it was our vows to each other. So we just did it on our own. But I think Stephen regretted not having a party because he said, I think we should have a party for our 45th. I went, but that's not a thing, is it? It's like 25 and then, 10s. He went, well, we'll make it a thing. So I did find it hard this year, not just because it was the first, because I felt exactly as my mum did. I felt cheated. I thought, do you know what? We should be celebrating this. So, but it was the first one. Well, no, it wasn't. The first one was literally 4 days after, but it felt like the first one.
Yeah.
Because the other one...
Well, it was so close, wasn't it? And that was the big downside to it. It was literally you was still in a state of shock.
Yeah.
But so close to the 45th.
Yeah. So I sort of get where my mum was coming from. And the other thing my mum found hard, and now I can understand what she means. The very first year, she got out her Christmas cards. She put them all back in the card box and she said, I can't do this. I went, can't do what? She went, I'm not writing Ted and Pat. I'm just writing Pat. Can't do it. I went, well, do you know what, Mum? Don't do it. No one will mind.
Yeah.
But I had the same the first birthdays as they come round and I'm just having to write Mum on the card and not Dad. That was hard.
Yeah.
But, that's one of those things that you have to go through, isn't it?
It is. And that is all part of that grieving side of it. It is all that recognising that you are left. They have gone, and eventually it does get better. Over time is a great healer. Doesn't mean you don't love them any less. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means that you're coping without them.
Yeah.
And you have to.
I mean, I think I was lucky because of the counselling at the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, that was very, very quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that definitely.
Do you think that the counselling would have been beneficial if it had gone on longer? Because you only get
10 weeks.
You only get sort of. Was it 10 sessions or something?
Yeah, 10 hours. I don't know. Well, I mean, it seemed. Well, I suppose the longer you do it, the more benefit you get out of it. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know if I'd run out of things to say. I mean, she tried to steer me in certain directions when she wanted to tell me things. Yeah. But much like Stephen, I tended to wander off my own way, and she tried to, like she had sheets, and she'd say, "Oh, this is what you're going to go through," and you don't just go through it once because you might start at 1, get to 6, and go back to 3. Yeah. So you need to prepare yourself for all that. But even that helps, knowing that, because you don't think to yourself, "Is this normal?" Because you know it is. Yeah. Because otherwise you'd be thinking, I thought I was over all this. That can't be right. But,
It's a bit of Tom Jones, isn't it? It's not unusual to have those feelings. Yeah. And everybody goes through a similar sort of process, although at a different pace. Some people get over it very quickly, other people don't. And some people take years and years to get through it.
See, I'm lucky, not just with the girls, my family, my whole family. Even my brother and sister-in-law, Christopher and Christine. Everybody's been amazing. The nieces, the nephews. If I couldn't get over it with all the support I've got, then nobody would stand a chance. Everybody has been amazing, and my friend has been through it a bit before Stephen, but. Probably along the line I'm coping better than she is, but this happened just before lockdown. So can you imagine being a widow going straight into lockdown?
Oh, that would have been a nightmare.
And then just being isolated. I mean, lucky enough, you do have Facebook, FaceTime and things like that. But,
it's not the same, is it?
I can't imagine.
It's not the same.
No.
And you've got to feel for people that have been through
Yeah.
that during lockdown, where somebody's been suffering from a terminal illness, and you couldn't even see them,
Yeah.
and they died, and and you couldn't even go to the funeral.
No.
I mean that
happened to a friend of mine with his dad.
Would make life really, really difficult, especially if it was happened at the beginning of the lockdown, and then you find yourself in some serious trouble. You just couldn't.
Well, my friend's mum had dementia, and she had to go into a nursing home, and it was the day lockdown started. So literally, my friend had to leave her at the door. Then they put her mum in isolation for 2 weeks. Can you imagine? She's already got dementia. She didn't know what was happening, and then my friend is fretting.
Yeah.
It just the whole thing was terrible for everybody, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But she's still going through it. I'm still going through it. Maybe I'm a little further down the line than she is, although hers is longer.
Yeah.
But we do help each other, I think. And the good thing is we can talk to each other as well.
I think that's one of the real big key is that you can talk about the person you've lost, and I think that helps everybody. It's really difficult when people sort of push your foot around, don't know what they can say to you. They find it difficult approaching the subject, and it shouldn't be like that. And that's what we're trying to do with this particular show, is to make it easy for people to talk about these difficult subjects, particularly with bereavement, because the worst thing I found is that people didn't want to mention Sandra when she died. When I came back, they found it difficult to be able to talk about her in front of me, because they didn't know how I was going to feel out and all the rest of it. And quite often I had to start a conversation about Sandra and Dave. I mean, I'm really lucky with Ro. We can talk about Sandra and Dave till the cows come home. We quite often do have that conversation about them and what we used to get up to and stuff like that. So from that point of view, it's important that if you know somebody that's lost somebody, go and talk to them about them. Bring the subject up.
Because they probably do want to speak about that person, don't they?
Absolutely.
I mean, as Stephanie said, we had to tell this story to so many people over and over again. The first time it was a bit hard, we were getting choked. The second time gets a bit easier. And in the end, by the end of about week 2, we told so many people, it literally was like you were telling a story, but about somebody else that didn't even, relate to you. It was very strange. But because we could talk about it, other people would talk to us about it. And actually they still do, don't they? I mean, we do still talk about him all the time.
He knew so many people around the neighbourhood.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. Well, our neighbours over the road, they come over, they said to say that we're going to miss him on our Wednesday real hour night. I went, on your what, sorry? Wednesday real hour? Oh, he used to come over every Wednesday, real hour. Oh, no wonder his visits to the co-op was so long. Because, an hour of that would be real hour over the road. Even the co-op sent sympathy cards because he was always round the co-op.
Yeah.
Yeah, he might go round there for a pint of milk, but be round there 3 hours talking to the staff. I'm surprised he didn't get invited to their Christmas party, to be honest. But
he probably did, but didn't tell you.
He knew so many people that we didn't even know, didn't he? Even Halloween, because he always used to do a big thing, Halloween for the kids. Lady up the road brought a little pumpkin round with a plant in, to say, just to say we appreciate what he used to do, and he did this and he did. And I'm like, I didn't know any of this. But it's surprising what he did do for people that he never said. And it's only since he's been gone and different people have said things. Actually, even
Laura.
Yeah.
She worked at the factory shop in Tiptree, and one of the drivers had a medical episode and got taken to hospital. but the lorry was literally half in the road, half in the car park, and literally brought the village to a complete standstill. So Laura phoned Dad and said, look, we've got this lorry stuck here. Can you help? So he was like, yeah, I'll come and move it. So he drove there and moved it and put it somewhere safe. And we didn't even know anything about that.
Didn't even say anything, did he? It was. I think it was after the funeral that Laura was saying, wasn't she?
Yeah.
It's surprising, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, hopefully people will listen when you say talk to people. I mean, and it doesn't matter who it is. Might be your friend, might be your doctor, anybody. But you won't get anywhere bottling it all up.
No, and I think that's one of the key things to take away is that talking about the person you've lost is really, really important, and making it comfortable for people around you to talk about them as well. And I think that is the one key factor that you can take away that will make life so much better in the process.
We found the same after my mum and dad died, and it got to the funeral, and we knew their funerals. We knew a couple of things, but we're like, do you know what? They'd never told us what they wanted. They'd never said. So Stephen and I had already had these discussions, had already paid for our funerals, and Stephen had pretty much planned his own funeral. I'm like, I really don't think that's appropriate. But you know, come the day, all of that seems to just let them have what they want.
Yeah.
So his funeral, he said, funerals, you shouldn't sit there and mourn someone. You should celebrate their life. So
Absolutely.
he wanted his to be very upbeat, which I think it
we
was.
made that.
I think so.
I for my part in it, I really find it difficult to be able to read out in public.
Yeah.
I can stand up and in front of a crowd and talk for hours, but to sort of read something out about,
that's different because it's emotion there, isn't it? It's
not. So for me, I had to get Ro to do it, and I was stood there with her, and I was in bits.
Well, I didn't know the vicar had the girls' eulogy just in case, and I didn't know whether they'd be able to do it, but actually, you did, didn't you? So Leroy couldn't. He got to the end, and Leroy let the vicar do it, didn't he? It's hard. It is hard. I wouldn't have been able to do it.
I think I was just on autopilot because obviously Charlotte started struggling, and I was just like, you know what, I've got this. I'm on autopilot. I'm just kind of like here, but not here.
But the good thing is, we were laughing, you know, because the stories were silly. So, which is what he would have wanted.
Absolutely,
he would not wanted us to all sit there and be miserable. And he got what he wanted at the... Well, they wouldn't let him have the song he wanted on the way in because it was totally inappropriate.
I was singing it in my head.
Yeah, I can't remember. What was it? Highway to Hell? Yeah. So the vicar's like, no, I don't think we can do that. But he did have... was on the right side of life on the way out, didn't he? Which is what he wanted. And then he didn't have that a song, a hymn, did he? He had the silly JCB song, which is what they used to phone up and sing to each other when it come on the radio. But again, we could only do all this because we'd had these conversations.
Absolutely.
So without it, nobody
would have known what he wanted anyway. And the last thing you want is to somebody else to sort your funeral out and get it all wrong.
I must say, every time we went to a funeral, he'd go, oh, that was a lovely service, but it's not what I want. Don't do that for me.
Yeah.
I don't want any of that. This is what I want. So,
I mean, he and I went to plenty of funerals and mates that we've lost. I mean,
too regularly, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think one year I went to 20 funerals of mates that we served with that we'd lost, and it was just getting ridiculous. They were dropping like flies. And one of the guys, Chris Cummins, there was just 4 of us that turned up at his funeral. It was a real shame. But there you go. That's that's the way it goes. That's life.
Comment.
Yeah. So Keith's popping in some. A man after my own heart. He says, I love talking. Like that Highway to Hell. That made me laugh.
Yeah, we did make the vicar laugh.
Yeah.
But because we'd already had Callum and LJ's christening, and he'd come round the house. He already knew Stephen, so you know
that was the thing. We was in a bit of a conundrum, weren't we? Because he didn't want a religious ceremony, but obviously at some point it's got to be kind of religious. But
well, it was only the one reading that was.
No, but I think that's why I said the vicar. Why don't we ask?
He was
Simon,
nice, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He's so down to earth, and he knew Dad personally because the funeral directors were just going to get some random person, and that didn't sit right with me.
So that's important that you get the right person to run it.
Yeah. But you know, it gets back to you have to have these conversations.
Absolutely.
I can remember my dad telling me things, and I used to go, don't want to know, la 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 la. And he used to go, but you've got to know, you've got to listen. And then when it happened, my brother went to me, do you know where this and that isn't? I said, he did tell me, but no, because I didn't listen. So now they know where everything is. But you know, it does, and it does help that the fact they say to me, oh, where did you say your will is? Where is the funeral plan? Where is this? Where is that? Because it's all in the same place, and they all know where it is.
To find it, and
so,
then
you know,
and it just makes life so much easier for those that's left behind.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, just it takes out a lot of worry. It takes out a lot of pain and a lot of stress. I mean, there's an awful lot that needs doing when somebody dies. And it's so much easier if you can do it, and it's all done for you. It's laid out. So that's where the funeral is. That's what they want. This is what needs to be done. So all the ducks are in a row.
After Mum and Dad went, I said to Stephen, "No, I'm going to sort everything out because I don't want the girls to have to do this because it was horrible, even emptying out the house and everything." So you try and do it to make life a little easier. And it's, we will talk about it. It's not like a taboo subject. And at first, they would well up and get upset. But do you know what? We spoke about it so many times now. It's just like, well, that's over there and this is what we need to do. Yeah. And even practical things. It's also practical things as well. Because everything is in Stephen's name, was in Stephen's name. So all those bills and everything, they have to come over to me. Yeah. And then obviously if I'm not here, so you have to sort out all these things.
You do.
Just to make things easier. But, we've spoken about it all. If that's the one message you can get across.
Yeah. But, is to talk about the practical side of it. Because it will happen one day. And it's important that you get all the ducks in a row and just to make it easier for those that are left behind.
Definitely.
And I think that's the one big key message that we'd like to get out is that you can talk to people about it, and when it does happen, it's easy for people to sort out. And if you can do that, then it just makes the whole grieving process so much better. Well, ladies, I think you've been most helpful in this little mission of making it easy to talk about bereavement. So there you go. I think that's been a really, really useful chat this evening. Hopefully you've got something out of it. Hopefully you'll be able to have a chat with your loved ones to make it easier for everybody concerned, whether it's your wife goes, your husband goes, your kids go. You have that conversation and you just make life easy for everybody. So until next week, I've got a great guest on next week. God, the guest I've got coming on next week. If you've ever thought about walking on hot coals, it's something to do with hot coals. So until next week, thank you for joining in. Thank you for being there. TTFN. Ta-ta for now.